All right, everybody, we're back. This is an unusual show for us because it's just me and Jared. This is, I guess, code name EOY for end of year 2014 because this was a pretty awesome year for the changelog. So you got me here, you got Jared here. So Jared, say hello.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Just
winding it down.
Winding it down. It's almost Christmas time. It's getting real close. It's a Friday, so it's an end of a good week. Day job wise, shipped some awesome stuff. The whole team's doing great. We're all preparing for the Christmas holiday next week, and just the new year. And a lot of things happen. You get sort of sentimental at this time of year. You get a little thankful this time of year, and not that you're not thankful other times in the year. It's just you kind of reflect. You do a retrospective of what that year was, and it's. There's positives, there's negatives, there's things that, surprise you and people you're thankful for. So I figured it would be good for you and I to hop on the show, and just you and I, because we actually had some scheduling conflicts and had some shows planned that just didn't work out. So we'll do them in the new year. I thought it makes sense for us to come on and just say hello to all of our awesome listeners and talk about what's going on with the changelog, what we're doing, and who we're thankful for.
So do you read, just random question, do you read all those end of year top lists? Is that something that you're into, or do you frown upon those things?
Well, I guess, what do you mean? Do you mean from individuals or for
just in general? I mean, they're everywhere. The best top albums of the year, the 5 biggest mistakes celebrities made, or whatever. It seems like we always have these year-end roundups. The favorite this, the worst that.
I will say they have a place, but I would say I read the ones that are most relevant to maybe what I'm feeling. So if it's like, top worst mistakes, product managers made this year, I probably might read that one. Or, top ones podcasters, so depending upon how relevant it is to me, I don't care about celebrities. I'm just not going to read that. Anything around what we're doing here at the changelog or what I do professionally, so photography, video, coding, design, development, UX, mentoring, I'll probably dig into something like that.
Right on.
Top fonts, for the year.
Oh, you got a list?
UI patterns. I don't have a list myself. I know I've used Proxima Nova this year. I've dipped into Helvetica, even though it's a staple. Anybody has to use that. I've gone to. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly, but Bebas, Bebas, new. That's a good one. Nice, slender font.
How about San Francisco? That's the new one, right?
I haven't seen that one.
That's the new one that Apple is releasing as a part of iOS 8, or I don't remember.
So there you go. I'm obviously not up on the times. I try to be. Tech moves fast, not just open source, right?
No doubt.
So yeah, and I like that stuff. I dig it. I dig those lists. It kind of depends on how relevant it is. So if it's relevant, then definitely I'll dig into it for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get burnt out on those things. I don't usually participate in like the big end of year roundups. I do actually write one usually on my own site, which is a little bit sentimental. Just like the stuff that I like, I call it beloved bits. It's like the things that I found during that year they had to be anatomically digital. Like that's my criteria. And so I'll just like my favorite movies, video games, like Mac apps, iOS apps.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So I do one, even though I'm kind of like anti that kind of thing. So I'm very hypocritical in that way.
I write one, but I don't read them.
Yeah, they all suck except mine.
What about we saw this recently in the Changelog Weekly, like the state of JavaScript or the state of Perl in 2014 or 2015.
Yeah.
Those are similar to that. What about those?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think I read that the state of JavaScript in 2015. And those are nice because obviously it's 2014 still, so it's looking forward and trying to project a little bit based on what we've experienced this year.
Yeah.
And that's, there's lots of insights. Of course, if it's well written, that's usually the X factor. So I'll give those things a chance for sure. And then if they are well written and interesting, I'll just keep going. If not, I'll kind of move on.
What do you think about the general population of developers out there? Do you think it's something that is... you think it's a norm for people to read those? Do they attract a lot of attention? Because any list sort of says, hey, I'm a list, and you can expect X, Y, Z out of me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think most developers have a love-hate relationship with lists. It's like we love to hate them, but they're also easy to write, easy to read. You like you said, you have an expectation, so you know what you're getting in for. And I don't know. It seems like most, it used to be the old saying on Hacker News or Dig or Reddit that to have a popular post, all you need is like X, top Y,
right,
in Z.
There was a formula.
Right, and that's true because we kind of like reading those things, even though
they're suggestive words, so they're bait. They bait you into having to, because we have to solve problems, right? We have to conclude the story. We can't just and the guy went here and he didn't or did not die. We have to sort of close the ending there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel you. That's kind of. We did that today, I guess, to a degree, at Pure Charity. So, as you know, and everybody else knows, my day job is not the changelog. By day, I'm a fighter of justice, a fighter of injustice at Pure Charity. And we had retro today because today we did demo, we shipped. So, it was an epic demo today, and then, with any epic demo, we have an epic retro, which is the last retro we'll have of this year. It's the last sprint we're going to commit to for this year. So, obviously there's a couple more weeks in the year, but we're done in terms of, committing to sprints and stuff. So it's kind of neat because we got to do a retrospective of the entire year. And we had a bumpy year. We had a bumpy year in the fact, this is way off topic of the changelog, by the way, but just talk about retrospectives. It was neat to look back at the whole year in its entirety and look at what happened, what changes, what we did well, what we didn't do so great of, and how we unified as a team. And I think it was just pretty productive and pretty emotionally charging because, we saw how we had such a sort of a crappy year emotionally because our founder passed away in April, and then we unified as a team and a development team and a product team and all that stuff for the year. And, this end of this year, you sort of come out with some joy because we know we achieved some really great high achieving goals. And I think in general, it's just good to be retrospective about that stuff. And that's what we're doing here in a sense with this show. It's, as we said before, it's unusual for us to take this format where we don't have a guest. It's just you and I, and we're sort of just looking back at this year of the changelog. And in no particular order, we got some thanks we want to talk about. We got some kind of high-level topics that we've seen happen in the open source world. It's not conclusive by any means. It's just sort of from the cuff to a degree, and that's sort of what we're doing with this show here. So,
it's the top 5 stories of the year.
Yes.
No.
No. I guess maybe we could take some turns here. I think I got a little rundown of a list here, but so when we relaunched the changelog in 2013, we established a membership, and that's grown. And so I think first I want to thank the members who pay yearly to support the changelog. We do have some advertisers, what we call sponsors, that support the show, and those are really great relationships, not just people who give us money, so we'll dig into that in a bit. But I wanted to say thanks to the members. That list and whatnot has grown, and your support is greatly appreciated because you help keep me and Jared excited about doing the changelog and covering the breadth and width of open source as best we possibly can. I know we went out to Keep Ruby Weird this year together to that conference, and that was, members helped make that possible by going out and being at a conference and doing some cool stuff and meeting people and stuff. And just kind of neat too, a sidetrack to that was the first time you and I actually met. So that was September, October?
You mean IRL?
Yeah, in real life.
Oh, we've had video chats.
Yeah,
and whatnot.
video chat and stuff, but not in real life. Shake hands,
right,
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug.
Yeah, brothers hug. We hugged.
Yeah, so which kind of speaks to the fact that I'm kind of the new kid on the block in the sense of I've been involved for just a couple of years now, but you talk about the members and the listeners over time, and the amount of support that we receive on a daily basis nowadays. I'm sure it wasn't always like that. Maybe give a quick rundown of kind of where the show came from, and maybe not like a huge history or anything, but I'm talking about retrospectives. Like,
yeah, go all the way back.
Your arc has gone, a long ways, right?
Yeah, well, way back in the day, it's not that many years ago, but it feels like so many years ago. 2009, myself and Win Netherland, whom most know from the show, of course, and his great work at GitHub on the API and just his contributions to open source and writing books and just giving talks at conferences. He's a great guy. He and I were kicking around some ideas together. I said it would be really neat to have a podcast called Changelog. I really like the name Changelog for a podcast. I said it would be really neat to like sort of look at open source and look at the different versions and talk about what changed and what was interesting about that. We sort of morphed and evolved that idea, and we really didn't have a clue that it would be what it is today, I guess. Maybe he did, maybe I did, and I don't know, but it seemed like it was a sort of a happy accident to a degree, and, we did a couple shows and sort of figured out our format. We got Rob Pike on the show early from the Go team, one of the founders of and creators of the Go language, which has turned 5 this year.
Right.
So, I mean, that sort of shows you how long we've been in this business. It's been kind of crazy, and we've just, tried to do our best to shine a spotlight on what's fresh and new and open source. It's been a tagline of ours since the beginning, and we just try to do our best however we can with whomever is on the team at the time, and that team has changed over the years, to serve the open source community, and that's just sort of been our mission. And you've been on board for a couple years now. Time flies, man. I can't even remember when you joined or how long it's been, but it's been great having you on this team, and now co-hosting the show. Now that Andrew's stepped into the role at Stripe, and he's got less time to do it, so having a co-host is sort of paramount to this show. I think it requires, to a degree, a good co-host, and so it's just been great having you, of course, and that's sort of where the changelog came from.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here for sure. Seems like one thing that we have, which I've never experienced the other side of this, is we have a great group of supporters, as you said, members, listeners, people that ping us. Did it take off immediately, or was it a slow burn as far as getting to the place that we are now of people who like the show and like the website?
I would say some history that may not be known by everybody is that we were originally, as a site, as an entity on the web, we were on Tumblr for the longest time. And it was a love-hate relationship for anybody who's ever done anything significant on Tumblr. After a while, we definitely outgrew it. And Win and I both knew that we had outgrown it. We had conjured up several different iterations of it, and obviously stuff we've never shipped. And when Win parted ways with the changelog, after he was at GitHub for a bit, he just wanted to focus on his work there and family and stuff. So after he parted ways, I figured, it's time for either to kill the changelog and move on, or rebirth it with I wouldn't say much a better plan, but just maybe some structure. And so I got to tear down and rebuild to a degree, but the tear down wasn't like throw away. It was sort of tear down what the idea was and what it could be, and rebuild it from there. And so rebuilt the site on WordPress, multi-author platform, and the membership was crucial at first. And you asked if it took off quickly. At first, the memberships took off really fast, and then it sort of tailed off, and then it was sort of non-existent for a while. Getting new members, the members were there, and then we were still trying to figure out how we can best make the membership really work to, one, be a financial gain for us, so we can keep doing this thing, because it does cost money. Going to conferences and buying this awesome podcast equipment we have, and serving the files, and all these things cost money. Everything. That's been a battle. It's been tough to give value back when we give everything away for free already. So members, in a sense, was sort of a donation, and then it dawned on me that we can actually leverage our sponsors and turn them into partners, and have them give an exclusive offer to paying members. So like DigitalOcean gave $20 for new accounts, and You get on a list, Rackspace, DigitalOcean. I can get on a list. I don't have it right in front of me right now. TopTal is a partner as well, and that's sort of been the catalyst to make, I think, our benefits to the membership be really awesome. CodeShip, MaxCDN, Honeybadger, RunScope, Travis CI, Codebase, Deploy, VersionI. Those are all partners with the changelog. And we've got some kind of unusual partners too. I guess not really unusual. They're just not corporate sponsors, like Ruby Tapas. Everybody watches that. Or at least any Rubyist, possibly. And we're Ruby heavy around here. Ruby off Rails, so not Ruby on Rails. Good friend here in Houston runs that. Motion in Motion for those who are doing Ruby Motion, so you want to learn that. Those are partners of ours. Elixir SIPs, learning the Unix command line, scaling PHP, and that's what we've done so far to sort of give back in a way to those members who have given us financial abilities to move forward. So, yeah.
Not to mention 20% off a changelog tee.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, who doesn't want a changelog t-shirt, right?
Throw that in there. Yeah.
I was actually thinking about making that 50. I feel like 50 would be a better deal.
Oh.
Make no money at all on it. I mean,
why
make 30? Just make 0.
Well, you get more people wearing changelog tees that way.
That's right. So that's what I was thinking. So we'll probably do that now that we've said that. So expect, if you're a member, if you haven't ordered it yet, expect it to be 50% off instead of 20, because I think that's better. And full access to our archives, too. So our front page changed a little bit. Our front page used to have pagination, and you used to be able to page through as far back as you ever wanted to go. And now we restrict that. I never wanted the changelog to have any sort of paywalls, but I figured that, our front page didn't have to have pagination anymore, and figured if you were a member, you can have pagination, and if you're not, then you get prompted to become a member and support us. And I like the thing right near the button, not to linger on this membership stuff too much, but I thought it was funny that right near the button where it says, yes, I want to support the changelog, and that's becoming a member, right beneath that is a link that says, no, I don't want to support open source, which I think that's what our mission is, right, to support open source. And it links to this cat that has the perfect sad face.
Oh, I'm seeing that right now. That's.
I don't know if anybody's ever seen that, but I like it. I think it's kind of funny. It's like, yeah,
that's a sad cat, man.
That's a sad cat. Yeah, don't make the cat sad, as that's what we say around here.
There you go. So you mentioned a love-hate relationship with Tumblr, and we traded that in. Now we have a love-hate relationship with WordPress.
I think anything you eventually outgrow,
Yeah.
Or, there's better ways. WordPress is good. I love WordPress. It's got a lot of great support. It's open source. It's helped open source become more visible to so many people. But I think
it's also provided a marketplace for people who can do open source and sell some of their wares as well.
Yeah,
and make a living. There's people that make a living doing either themes or plugin development.
That's true. Yeah. I think it's I will never say anything bad about WordPress. It's great. I love it. But as for building the changelog on top of it, I think we sort of keep hitting our limits with platforms, and we have bigger and better. I wouldn't say bigger and better. I would just say grander ideas that may fit better on different languages or different language platforms, and that kind of thing. So,
and we've thrown around the possibility of building our own member, platform for the CMS and the membership site.
Yeah,
quite a bit, and
I think to make it better, that's what's required. We could do it on WordPress, but you're not a WordPress developer. I'm not a WordPress developer. We could build it on WordPress, but we might be able to build it even better on something else.
The problem is whatever we build, like right now it's love-hate with WordPress, but whatever we build, it's going to be a love-hate with that thing.
Yep.
And then we won't have some other guy to blame. We can always blame Matt Mullenweg
that's right.
his team. But when it's our own code, then there's just no one to point the finger at, man.
Yeah, then it's our own bugs. And
that's right.
All bugs have software.
That's right.
So sponsors, thanks also to the sponsors. I mean, not only the members and listeners. When we say members, we mean those who are paying members. But, outside of that realm of members, we've got umpteen thousand people who listen to the show globally. It always blows my mind to hear from somebody from like Russia or somewhere in Europe or somewhere in Asia or India or just South Africa. Chile, Brazil. I mean, worldwide, the internet is big, obviously, but it's still just mind blowing that it's we get the honor and privilege to be a part of something that touches so many lives that I never even knew of, and it reminds you of how small the world can be, and that's sort of wild. So definitely thanks to everyone who supports us, and that's sponsors too. So one way we do things around here is by having awesome sponsors like DigitalOcean, Rackspace, TopTal, CodeShip. It's not an exhaustive list. RunScope. Just thinking off the top of my head, who else has recently sponsored the show? Blanking. But yeah, lots of great people support us. If I didn't name your name, it's not for any sort of reason. It's just that they help us in so many ways. We got some cool stuff that's happening in the future, the changelog that we're talking about, that we've got support coming from those sponsors that make it possible. Expensive equipment like video gear and stuff like that has been able to get acquired. So some hints on what's coming in the future has been able to been gotten because we have their support, and so that's really awesome.
Yeah, just looping back around to your the world being small now and all the support we get around the world. Excuse me. One thing that we did this year, which has worked out really well, is we started a specific repository on GitHub called Ping. Mm-hmm. So github.com/thechangelog/ping, I believe, is the URL.
That's right.
And that is a centralized place for listeners, readers, what have you, friends of the show, can come and let us know about stuff. So whether it's your own stuff, whether it's an idea for the show, a project that you just started, or something you need help on, looking for a new maintainer, whatever it is, you can open up a new issue on Ping, and we will look at that, and we will possibly promote it, whether it be on the blog or in Weekly or on Twitter or all three. Possibly even end up on the podcast.
Yeah.
And people have really been using that. In fact, we got kind of backlogged there for a few months, to the point where we needed to start working down the backlog. But some really cool stuff has come from there. Obviously, we're out there keeping our thumb on the pulse, but there's so much open source. And, one of the common comments that we get is that, our content is too specifically focused around either Ruby or JavaScript or the web. Yeah. And I think that's a completely valid criticism and something that we're striving to make better. But one of the ways to help us make that better is by sending us content into the Ping repo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we look at all of those things, and we may ask for more information, or we may not feel like we're necessarily experts in a specific domain. But we've had a lot of good interactions there on Ping this year. And so just want to say thanks to everybody who reached out and shared their stuff with us. I know specifically we've had show topics come in through there. Not even people that want to be on themselves, we get those, but someone that says, hey, this would be cool. Specifically, our show on Perl happened just completely because somebody came in on Ping and said, let's talk about Perl, and then mentioned two different people that would be great guests. We contacted one of those and put up a show, and I think in the last few months, I think that's been one of our best shows.
Yeah, and even Ovid, who was the guest on the show of that recommendation, he's become a friend of the show. I wouldn't even mind, dropping some more hints. I wouldn't mind helping him start a podcast of some sort, because I was intrigued by and impressed by his relationship with Perl over the years and just sort of his history with it. And there's an audience there. There's people who really love Perl, and it kind of enlightened me to this new aspect of that language.
Yeah, I think what it did was it opened us to a whole new community inside open source that we never really touched. I mean, we had a little bit of help with Gabor here for a little while, posting some Perl stuff, but myself personally had never actually seen how much was out there. And yeah, Ovid, super interesting guy. I'd love to talk him into starting the show. Maybe not even maybe Perl and poetry.
Yeah,
listeners may not know, offline after the call ended, he went and talked about poetry and writing with us, and
he loves it.
I could just sit there and listen to him talk about this stuff for hours.
Yeah, he's likable for sure. Definitely likable. He couldn't go into politics. I wouldn't doubt that.
Right.
So that's Ping. I think we started Ping this year. It was funny because originally we had ping at thechangelog.com was an email. So if you're sending email to that, don't do that. Go to the Ping repo instead. And if you know anybody who thought about doing it or who might do it, tell them don't do that. Go to the Ping repo instead. Because we're trying to put a lot of this sort of, I guess, inspired by GitHub, which is now not called GitHub anymore, Chad Whitaker, of being open, just sort of inspired by that, of not so much being an open company, but we thought that it would be best to have those kinds of conversations in the open versus closed email where we can like, for example, one of the more recent shows we might have in the future on Angular, I can't recall the issue or the names, but we might have a show in the future with a previous person who was in the Angular community, and they've recently departed, and we were able to that person and bring them into the conversation. So you can't really do that with email. It's kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Whereas GitHub issues sort of are the open playing ground, and it's not just me or Jared or anyone else who's a part of the team here at the Changelog. It can be anyone to step in and help us fine-tune the conversation that might come from it. So I love that repo and what it's done for us. So I encourage anybody who wants to help us cover open source better, use that repo and those issues to help us do that.
Yeah, just to give an example of that. So the one you referred to, this is Kevin McGee, who's just a listener of the show, opened up a new issue that says, guest idea, Rob Eisenberg, keeper of Durandal. I never had to say that. Durandal JS? I don't know. We'll have to ask him that. An open source JavaScript project. And his comment just says, seriously, who leaves Google's Angular project, especially now with version 2 being breathlessly debated? Maybe get this guy on the line. And he links to a specific blog post by this fella who is leaving Angular and has apparently had a previous project called I don't know what it's called, man. Durandal? I don't know. Durandal? Durandal. Let's go with Durandal. And he went from that to Angular 2.0 stuff, went back to Durandal. Interesting story, interesting thing that's happening in open source, and like you said, we looped that guy in. I keep calling him that guy. Let's get his actual name. So
his name's Rob.
Yeah, Rob Eisenberg, the Eisenberg effect. And we were able to just @message him. You know, he came in, talked back and forth, and hopefully we'll be able to line up something.
Yeah.
In fact, Kevin went on to give a list of how he would like the show to go, like it should, which was pretty cool.
He framed the show for us.
Yeah, because that show needs framing because we don't want to turn it into just some sort of drama, thing. It needs to be and we don't want to turn it into a wine fest, as he says. So really cool, and hopefully we can put that together for him.
I'll go on record here while this is maybe part of the topic, is that the changelog has never been about serving the trolls. Okay, that's not what we are. It's not the kind of show we are. We will never be about serving the trolls. So just that's out there. If we had Rob on the show, it wouldn't be about having him on to bash Angular. It would be about getting to the root of some of the problems, and I think that's good. That might even lead us into the conversation we recently had with Yehuda and Tom Dale about Ember, because their path and their roadmap to Ember 2.0, I think, is a beacon of light of looking at what is good happening in other communities of open source and other software communities and implementing it in theirs. And so when you identify a problem, it's easier to solve that problem. And the only reason we would have Rob on the show, Rob Eisenberg, to talk about his concerns with Angular and why he departed or whatever, wouldn't be about to spread drama. It would be about to figure out, what's the problem here? What's the problem here? What did he see as an issue, and how can that community possibly rebound and solve those problems?
Yeah, for sure.
And just inform the community, because some people are thinking, like, should I use Angular? Should I use this? Should I use that? And then it's like, should I use Ember versus Angular? And that helps you make a more informed decision as a developer, and possibly even save your job.
Absolutely, man.
Let's see what else we got on the list here. Who else want to thank?
We would be remiss to not mention a few other people that helped us out this year, especially our new editor.
Yes.
Aaron,
who's listening to this now, by the way, as he's editing this. So, Aaron, thank you. Aaron, it's funny, the story behind Aaron. So I used to host a show with, for those who are into design or on the design side of web development or development in general probably know a name, Drew Wilson. Drew Wilson is famous for creating Pictos and about a zillion other projects I can't even name off because he's crazy like that. And Jared Arandu was the person who started this blog called The Industry. And then we did a podcast called The Industry Radio Show. And when we did that, we got an email from a guy named Aaron. And so I went back to that same person and was like, hey, Aaron, I run a different show now called The Changelog. We could really use some help because if you all noticed, those who listen to the show religiously over the years, the times we've ebbed and flowed has been whenever me, Jared, or any other co-host or any other person that was working with me, like Andrew, when we were just too busy in our lives to do the changelog every week and edit it. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time commitment. And unless we have sponsors and stuff like that, it's just really hard to always say yes to it, even though we love it so much. So having Aaron on the team helps us make sure that I'm not the bottleneck on editing. So for the duration of all the changelog, I've edited every single show. And so I've been on the show, I've edited the show, or I've helped edit the show, or helped create the show to a degree, because there's lots of shows where just Win was the host. But yeah, it's a time suck. But Aaron is great at it. So the last 5 shows, if you've not heard a difference, it's because he's that awesome. There you go. And so thank you, Aaron, for your support and making the show awesome and making it sound awesome. And we look forward to a deeper relationship with Aaron in the future with whatever else we come up with here, because we're crazy. And then I guess maybe the other person to thank would be 5x5 and Dan Benjamin for their support. Where I think, what was it? Was it this year or was it 2013? It was 2013. I'm trying to get my years correct here because 2013 was a crazy year. 2013, about midway through, we decided to move from just being just the changelog on the changelog.com to syndicate through 5x5. So we joined the 5x5 team. We moved all of our shows over there. We stopped numbering with versions, some old school drama there. We decided to actually just call them, episode 85 versus 0.8.5. And
that means you never hit 1.0.
Yeah, we never hit 1.0.
Ugh.
That's a shame.
Some projects never hit 1.0.
Yeah, it's just vaporware.
Is that semantic versioning, or what kind of versioning were you guys doing?
Well, we got yeah, it wasn't semantic versioning. So,
no, it wasn't.
No, it was definitely not. And that was the whole thing. Like when we did the versioning, the hardcore developers were like, well, that's not semantic versioning. And then we're like, well,
seriously, people actually said that?
I'm not even kidding you. We've gotten hate mail about that. Not bad hate mail, but definitely,
yeah.
Haters gonna hate kind of thing. I can pull up the email and quote directly if you want, but I don't think that would serve the audience any better. But yeah, so 5x5 has been great. Working with Dan has been great. He and Hattie and the team over there have just definitely helped us over the years be a better show and reach a larger, bigger audience. And, so their support has been great. We've had tons of great guests all this year. I didn't write a list of all of our guests this year. Maybe you might, Jared, have the list in front of you. But I know we've had so many great shows this year. I think we've done, I'm going to try and guess at how many shows we've done this year. Let me scan the list real quick. We've probably done, well, that was no Black Friday. We've done from episode 117 to episode 34. So we've done, roughly 20-some shows this year, which is not weekly. We are a weekly podcast that does not broadcast weekly. We try. As I said, we've had some ebbs and flows, and we're not going to digress to that, but a lot of great shows this year. So this year started out with Jeremy Sands, talking about Gopher Cass and Go and Martini. I didn't really plan to go down all the people that have been on the show this year, but just lots of great guests this year we got to be thankful for as well. So pretty cool.
Yeah, Chad Whitaker, Tim Caswell, Justin Searles, Olivier Lacan.
Yeah, I can never get that one right.
I'll say that one for you.
Yes.
Olivier, of course, the epic Keep a Changelog episode of the Changelog.
That was an epic show. A lot of people love that show. That was a great one. So if you're listening, go back and listen to 127. That was great.
Well, that guy's just a character. Just super enjoyable. and had a very uplifting message, which is to keep a changelog.
Yes, that's as easy as it can be. Keep a changelog. Some other good names, I guess. That I enjoyed talking to Parker Moore. I did that one alone. Parker runs and took over the Jekyll project.
Right.
If you use Jekyll to blog, then you know Parker. You probably you're definitely using his code, of course. But he's a cool guy as well. I think he now works at Visco, which is runs the app. It's the iOS app called Visco Cam.
Okay. Yeah.
So he went to work there, I believe. I think he was like an intern of some sort at GitHub. I can't recall what his exact title was, but he was working with GitHub on Jekyll and GitHub page, and he probably still does that. I just haven't caught up with him in a while.
Yeah.
But that was a cool show too. Jekyll's cool. I like
Yeah,
Jekyll.
I missed out on that show. I remember Parker very specifically because I used to watch Jekyll on GitHub like very closely.
Yeah.
Because back, I'm sure you guys talked about all this, but it was slowly rotting for a long time.
It was bad.
And
Slowly
I watched this guy swoop in and just
save the day
over. And I'm like, who is this guy at first? Because he just commented on every single issue. Just like hopped in there. It's like someone just decided, I'm going to save this thing. And just really just gave it a 180. And it was pretty amazing to watch. I wonder where he got that bravado.
I don't know where he got it, but what I will say is that we definitely talked about that on that show. So if you're listening and you want to know more about what Jared's talking about with Parker and how he swooped in and took over from TP Dubs, or Tom Preston Warner, as you know him from being a co-founder at GitHub, he talks about that there. He talks a little bit about his bravado too, where he gets that kind of character. He's I believe he's German, so he's got that going for him. And I know he speaks German. Not that gives you any reason to have bravado, but that's he's got some oomph behind him. He's a character for sure. Great guy, and great in open source too. I think he's all green on his GitHub. He's all green.
I'm sure. So maybe another thing we can talk about before we sign off here is something I believe Weekly started this year. Did it not?
Weekly, did it start this year? Did it start this year?
I don't know. I know we did 29 issues. I'm thinking that's less than half of it.
That's
less
here.
than a year.
Okay, we started shipping the Changelog Weekly, which is our weekly email, August 15th, 2013. So it didn't really begin this year. And the reason why we don't have as many issues as we should is because on April 5th, or in or around that space, I ran out of gas.
Okay.
And you came in and saved the day, and we'll talk. That's a good conversation too, because it sort of revived this newsletter. I loved doing it, but it was like just a ton of work because I need help, and you provided that help. We'll dig into what that means here in a bit, but yeah, April 5th, I ran out of gas. I had issue 30 started and never shipped it, and I bummed me out because we got lots of good feedback from the Changelog Weekly. So we've got several thousand subscribers that read this thing every week, and it's just we share headlines, we share reposts, we share the most recent issue, recent episode of the show, and we share a couple videos, and now we also share some projects or mentions from the Ping repo we talked about earlier.
Right.
So we're plugging things that are happening there. So we're sort of given a way to have everybody sort of have a say-so of what's being mentioned on there. Not a huge degree, but at least enough.
Sure.
And Ping is a big source of incoming awareness of what's happening in open source for us. And obviously we watch Twitter and the known hashtags out there carefully and sort of curate to a degree headlines and projects and what's going on. So it's been fun shipping the Changelog Weekly. It's been great.
Well, let me provide a little context around this burnout of yours, because you shipped 29 episodes of Weekly in a row, which is a newsletter that ships on Saturday morning, first of all. Secondly, you were hand coding everything pretty much in HTML. I mean, it's an ERB template, but you're inside your. What do you use to write? You use Sublime Text, or you a Vim
Sublime
guy?
Text, yeah.
Okay, so you got your text editor open, and you're hand coding these things out all by yourself for roughly 29 weeks. That's about a half a year
Yeah.
on Friday nights, right?
Yeah, I would collect. So I had this philosophy of capture always. So I would,
Yeah.
in all sorts of different ways.
Which we still use that, right?
Yeah, I would email myself essentially a link I thought was interesting, and then later in the week, I would sit down and go through this entire repository of interesting links and just kind of comb through them and create this newsletter based on that.
And nobody can keep that pace going.
No, it's not one person. No,
right.
It was, and I would write. The detail. I didn't just copy and paste. It was, I took some intentions with that. Not pat myself on the back, but I really wanted to make sure that the point of it was to give a clear, curated voice of what's happening. So almost a summary of what happened that week in open source. It wasn't comprehensive, but it was sort of curated based on a perspective. So you sort of have that going for you, but it was personal. It wasn't just robotic, and that was the intention of it. And after a while, I sort of burned out on being able to keep that up. And then I got bummed out, couldn't automate it fast enough, and then took a 5-month break, and then you came in and saved the day for me.
Well, let's just say the readers came in because, we get pinged all the time, not just on Ping, but also via the contact form and on Twitter. And we just became slowly, it's kind of like, what's that Chinese water torture where it just keeps dripping?
Water dripping on your forehead?
Yeah, and eventually you just can't stand it. And so many people loved, Weekly that they just kept saying, where is it? What happened to you guys? Some people are mad, some people are just bummed out. And I also was a weekly reader. So like you said, you did the entire thing yourself. So I would just read it on Saturday mornings. So I was like, we got to fix this somehow. And there's just no way that what you were currently doing would scale.
Right.
So I said, well, I'll get involved and I'll help bring the content in. But now all of a sudden you need collaboration tools, right? You can't just, I guess we could have had a repo. It is a repo on GitHub, but
yeah.
We could have just hand-coded that same file and then just pushed and stuff. But we needed more high-fidelity collaboration tools, and we were already using Trello for pretty much everything else. We use it for managing the podcast, like you said, the radar, where Adam emails in his links that he finds, go into
it's
a
the
Trello
changelog
board.
radar. It's our open source radar. Yeah.
Right. The podcast, we were doing some of the editorial for a while in Trello. And so I'm not sure if it was you or me that said, why don't we just manage Weekly inside of Trello?
It was you. It was not me.
It was me?
It was totally your idea. Like, this is not at all my idea. I didn't even... I knew Trello had an API, and I knew we can do something with it. I just never thought to do what we did with it, and the whole thing was totally your idea. I'm not taking any credit for it at all. I'm a user of it. That's it.
I was trying to share some credit with you.
No,
there.
I don't want any credit. It's all you, man. That was totally... I was like, really? That's a great idea. Yeah. And like you outlaid the idea of how Trello is basically based on cards and titles. They support Markdown.
Right.
Obviously it's column based. Anybody who uses Trello knows that we can make our own process in it. And like you laid out this idea, and I'm like, we could do that. And you're like, yeah, and you made it happen.
Well, I think it's a good idea. The code is trivial. It's probably less than 200 lines of total code to get it all going, and we still have middleman in the process. So it's not rendering HTML. It's actually kind of dorky because it renders ERB, which renders HTML. But that was just the fastest way I could get it working.
Because I was already doing it. Middleman. I was using middleman, and I was using ERB templates, not Haml templates, to create the front end view, which ends up becoming the HTML for the newsletter. So middleman was in there, not just the middleman. It was actually middleman, Ruby middleman.
Yeah, and so the wins are huge here. So if you think about what our content is, it's a series of posts, grouped posts, and they're ordered, and they have titles and links and content, right? Copy.
Yeah.
And that's basically what a Trello is. It's a list of lists that have cards, each of which has a title and a description, which can support Markdown.
Yeah.
The big wins were like, you can now comment around a specific card, and those comments are just meta, right? They don't actually go into the issue, but we can discuss certain stories inside of the issue. We can post from anywhere. You can email in stuff. They have apps, so you can do it on your iPhone or on your tablet or whatever. you can just drag and drop, reorder things. It actually makes a whole lot of sense.
It changed the world of it. I mean, like let's take for example, issue 34, which will ship tomorrow. And when we first got on this call, Jared was like, "Hey, we're going to ship weekly stuff tomorrow," and I was like, "I think we might take a break." And he's like, "Well, it's mostly done because Jared went in here and took care of projects and repos. There's a video link in there and a couple from the Ping repo." And I'll go in there and add some headlines and some preview text or the editor's note and call it pretty much a day and ship it. And if it weren't for the collaboration that Trello offers us to make this happen, I would be behind the 8 ball. It's Friday. We're recording this on a Friday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it's got to ship tomorrow morning. Right. If I had to put together what is the Changelog Weekly myself tonight, it would be back to April 5th again, and I'd be upset. It's just not good. Right.
And for me, I mean, I would just say that using Trello in this capacity almost makes it more fun. Like,
definitely.
It just makes so much sense that it, like, reinvigorates you to want to do it because it's so stinking easy compared to anything else. Like I said, I'm a big Jekyll fan, so I've been using Jekyll for my blog for years. And there is still something about, like, I don't know. I live in my text editor all day as a developer, so writing inside of a text editor, I like Markdown, but I don't know. There's still this barrier of like publishing and all that happens with Jekyll with me. I know there's a lot of tools that are out there that are trying to like remove that friction and provide web-based tools or mobile tools. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, I get ideas for my writing on the go, or I'm on the go and I want to write a little something. And the fact that I can just throw open, in the case of Weekly, just throw open the Trello app and just write a description real quick or rearrange a thing just makes me do it more often. It's really cool. So we have had some people who are interested in that process, and I have a blog post that's at least it's an outline format right now. I'll be filling in the details, and we'll publish that here sometime, hopefully in January.
Yeah, we'll share. I think we talked about at some point open sourcing the code too. It's not that we don't want to keep it or anything like that. It's just not shareable. I don't know how to describe that. Shareable in a good way. At this point, it's sort of just hodgepodge. It's not going to make any sense to anybody else. But we want to open up that process and share that code and share the process that you came up with, and share some screenshots of what we do. And I think.
I think, like I said, the code is pretty trivial. You're just using the Trello API, and it's just a few hundred lines. It's very specific to what we're doing, but I think the process itself is novel.
Yeah.
And so that would be even
Trello
more beneficial to share that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Very novel. I think brilliant idea, honestly. And what I love most about it, too, is that whenever and if ever you and I begin to invite others in to help curate and create what is the Changelog Weekly, or maybe even other newsletters in the future, we can just invite them to that Trello board,
right?
And boom, they're an editor of what's there. And that
user
to me is
accounts
amazing.
Are there commenting their label. We use labels like a draft and a sponsor labels to help generate markup. There's so much infrastructure already there that it's like I just feel like we're cheating almost.
Yeah, I do. I feel like we're cheating too because it's so easy now. And everybody who's listening to this is probably like, I want to see what you're talking about. Well, you're going to have to wait till 2015 because that's where we're going. We're wrapping up 2014. We'll blog about it. Jared's got a draft in place. Please, when you write that, Jared, don't give me any credit. I want to just be a consumer of it. You're the creator of it. It was such an awesome idea. And I'm so thankful, too, for that because, like you said, it sort of liberated us because now the process is fun. We can drag and drop things. We can comment back and forth. Before, the process was totally behind the scenes. It was totally sort of in my inbox, and I was my own enemy. I was my own bottleneck, and it was non-collaborative, and now it's collaborative, and that's really great. So I think it's just turned out really awesome.
Yeah, I think the credit needs to go to Fog Creek because they created such a versatile tool. I mean, I use this thing for so many different use cases. Yes. Who would have thought that a list of lists would be so stinking useful?
Yeah.
And it really is. So.
Yeah. Well, let's. We did have some other topics to mention. Do you think we should even just do a quick read of those and then call it a show, or what? You think that's too teasing?
I don't know, man. Your call.
All right, I'll read them all real quick. This is just some topics we planned on, maybe, because this was totally an off-the-cuff show. So if you're listening this far, thank you. It was just an end-of-year thanks show from us. We love doing this show. We love the fact that you all listen to this show. We love doing the show for you and for the community. And so when we had some scheduling conflicts happen, we couldn't not ship an issue or another episode before the year ended. And we figured it made just a lot of sense to come back and just say thanks to everyone along the way that have helped us, supported us, you the listeners, you the members, sponsors, and everyone else who've made this show possible, just to say some thanks. But some topics we did write down, we weren't sure we were going to go through, but I'll read them real quick here, and feel free to stop me, Jared, if anything tickles your fancy. So you got Go on GitHub. That's recently. Go is now open source on GitHub. It's always been out there, but it hasn't always been on GitHub. And they turned 5 this year, so that's kind of neat, and that sort of shows the history of the changelog too, because the third show of the changelog had Rob Pike on it, and that was when we first started. So it's 5 years old. .NET Core is open source now, which is kind of neat. We just had a show on that. Also moved to GitHub, so it seems like the trend this year has been so-and-so moving to GitHub. And actually, if you put that search into Twitter, moved to GitHub, so MOVED to GitHub, you'll find all sorts of cool projects moving from XYZ to GitHub, Gitorious, whatever. Just follow that little search term on Twitter. You'll find some cool stuff. Node.js has had tons of changes. We started out the end of last year with Aaron Hammer talking about Black Friday and Node doing really awesome for Walmart. We ended that pretty much 2013 talking about that, and here in 2014 it's become one of the most used programming languages out there. And then here at the end of the year we've had some I guess the last 6 months we've had some drama happen. We've had some corporate weirdness happen, some corporate weird sponsorship happening that we don't want to sort of that's not what this show's about, but we plan to dig into some of that if at all possible. And then here most recently it was forked, and now there's a fork of it called io.js, and that's sort of crazy there. We talked about Ember, the roadmap to 2.0. We talked a little bit about something unique that Yehuda and Tom share, which was learning from others in the community and focusing on community was some things they've done there. Rust, they're planning on a 1.0 soon. We hope to do a show soon with their team. Steve Klabnik, who is sort of, I guess, part of the changelog. He doesn't really contribute too often, but he's sort of like an alumni for many years now. He plays a feature here and there on shows. We plan to have a show with him back, talking to Yehuda about JSON API and some cool stuff they're doing there. But some other news about them was Stephen Yehuda joined as core with the Rust team. Docker versus CoreOS. There's some drama there, some missteps there. We'd like to dig into, and we plan to. As we mentioned earlier with Angular, there's 2.0 concerns with backward compatibility, and just some unique things that are happening in the community there. Sadly, we had some people pass away. I don't know if it's definitely not a comprehensive list of people passing away, but
no.
Jim Wyrick and Ezra Zygmuntovich both highly impacted the community. Those are two that we particularly covered and earmarked to a degree, and definitely sad about their passing. Wish their family nothing but blessings of peace and comfort in this time, especially going into holidays. It's never easy having a loved one be lost. Me and my family, we personally have someone who's a loved one who's lost, and so we're going into this holiday season with a lot of mourning, but also some joy of this new year, but some tough times for sure. I would say the PHP spec one, that was pretty neat. Having Sarah Goldman on the show, she's got such a huge, deep knowledge of PHP. What she does at Facebook and keeping it fast and HHVM, and I mean, amazing work. So having her on the show, we plan to have more of her and her cohorts at Facebook on the show to talk about hack and other stuff. And kudos to Facebook too to step in and help unify the community there too.
In addition, I mean, Facebook, they're not my favorite company out there, but these guys have been really killing it with open source lately. The Flux stuff they did this year, React, which is growing more and more popular.
Yep.
The PHP stuff, Hack. It's just like one thing after the next. Facebook just keeps releasing more and more high quality open source stuff.
And you say this couple of their names, and we haven't had shows on those.
Right.
And I'll say, from my point of view, I wish we could cover more. It's not that we don't because we don't want to. It's because we just don't have all the time in the world. This is, to a degree, a hobby for us, for both of us even. Mm-hmm. And neither of us are doing this full time. So we are covering as much as we can, as well as we can. And that's been our goal. So just to kind of hang on that comment there. Debian was forked. I don't have any more details about that, but that was news for everyone else. We did talk about it in the Changelog Weekly, so if you don't subscribe to that, we've talked about it lots this show. You should go to thechangelog.com/weekly and subscribe. We had shows on Perl, which is a first for us, and .NET. Microsoft has never been on this show. They've been mentioned as far as NuGet and whatnot, but that's about it. We had core team members from the .NET core team on the show. We had Ovid on talking about Perl, so we'd like to expand more on that. And let me go to Twitter real quick because I wanted to pull up this person's name. Andy, I don't know how to see your last name. I won't try, but he's at SCHWA on Twitter. He gave us a comment, which I think is nice, that will help us frame some new stuff we'll work on for 2015, which is to better cover Emacs, Linux, Rust, C++, other functional programming languages like Clojure. We'd love to do that. And like you said earlier, Jared, Ping is one way to help us do that. So we're a two-man and some army around here. We got Beverly on the team as well, but our team has grown and it's shrunk. That's just because it's hard to keep everybody keeping a change log. You know what I mean? So it's tough work, man. This is tough work. Did there. You see what I did there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'd love to cover more system level stuff. We've seen, specifically Go and Rust have really exploded in the last couple of years. Go, has become really established. Rust still hasn't hit 1.0, but there's so much excitement around the possibilities there. C and C++, those are things that you and I just do not come across very often, at least in a way that we can know for sure, like, this is cool, this is noteworthy. We're doing our best, but we need y'all help if we're going to cover those things. And if anybody out there is super passionate about these particular topics and want to see shows on these, want to see more coverage, whether it's in the newsletter or on the website, reach out to us and definitely get in touch.
Yeah, we got the Ping repo. You can email us directly, although Ping is probably the best way to do it. Just get in touch if you've got ideas. We're an open book. We might not be always be able to deliver on everything we would like to, and like I said, we try our best. But as I said, that topic list there we just rattled off was not a comprehensive list. It was just something that's been roughly pulled together from recent issues of the weekly and the blog and the podcast itself. But I'll just say it's been great serving the open source community this year, just doing whatever we can. We want to do more of it, and whatever you can do, the listener, whatever you can do as a listener and as a reader of the Changelog, become a member. That's the easiest way to support us. Subscribe to Weekly, tell people about Weekly. That's the easiest way you can support us. We would do something like a Patreon or GitHub or something like that, but honestly, our membership is our Patreon. Our membership is our GitHub. That's the way we do it. We do it through Stripe. It's totally secure. You support us directly. We don't got to share that money with anybody else. It directly benefits and supports Jared and I, making sure that we can keep a changelog and keep supporting open source. Maybe even go to more conferences and do some cool stuff like we will release here in the first part of 2015. So I won't say what that is just yet, but it involves video. That's about it. So what's the best way to close the show? What do you think? Just say bye?
Just say, see you in 2015.
See you in 2015. That's it.
See you in 2015. That's it.
See you in 2015. So if you've listened this far, thank you very much. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you in 2015.